Tuesday, November 5th is the date. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Figure Four Podcast. My name is Doug. This episode, Donnie and I are going to do a little bit more wrestling talk. We're going to talk about Crown Jewel, what happened there, how ugly we think those goddamn championship belts are, and a little bit of what's going on from Raw and SmackDown after the show in Saudi Arabia. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's get to it.
So, Crown Jewel.
Eh.
Overall thoughts of it? I mean, it wasn't a bad pay-per-view.
Wasn't horrible. It wasn't
terrible.
No. There were some, and coming into this show, I was like, I'm not doing a rundown of the whole show. I'm just going to pick the matches that stood out to me a little bit and the ones that everyone talked about. Like the women's tag team championship match, couldn't care less. You know, like shit like that. Not going to talk about it. The first match, which was surprising, I didn't see it live because I was at work, but I did have my Fire Stick and I caught it late because I was doing shit. But I guess the first match was Bloodline versus Bloodline. So what did you think of that match itself to start the show? I love the premise. Myself personally, I thought the match was kind of eh. It was like a Raw or SmackDown match.
Yeah, I can see that. The match itself, I mean, I'll be honest, I was actually surprised that they led off with that match. I figured too. I figured that would be like the lead up to the men's Crown Jewel.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, we're going to be looking at this. This is going to be a match that's going to be going into Survivor Series. Like, this is going to be
100%. Yeah. 100%.
Sammy getting involved at the end
was cool.
He's going to be in.
Was cool to see.
It was cool to see. I'm looking at this match and I'm going to say that Sammy is going to be an honorary Uso going into Survivor Series.
Yeah.
Won't be surprised to see if he turns heel.
That's where I'm going. The match was blah. Sammy coming out at the end of the match was the highlight of that match for me. The match itself, it was typical Uso super kicks, you know, like Solo doing his absolutely fucking terrible taped up thumb. You know, it was typical horrible. I talked about that last year, I think. Sammy came out. It was cool to see him come out. He kicks Roman by mistake. And of course, you know, that's going to cause shit. Jimmy doesn't like Sammy, even though they used to be bros and blah, 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 which is funny because it used to be Jay that couldn't stand Sammy when Sammy was an honorary Uso and all that stuff. But the way it's going, they have to set it up. And I think it's going to come back to where when Jay looked at Sammy and said, "You ain't blood, you ain't family." And you could tell it was like, oh, Sammy, that was like kicking Sammy in the nuts. And they're setting it up so he's going to turn on them and go with Solo. That's what I think. Now, I don't think, I mean, they got a gremlin and they got a werewolf. I've talked about this before. They've got another guy that just doesn't do fuck all. He just kind of like stands there and looks jacked. I think Sammy is going to be their version of a wise man. That's my opinion. And it's just a matter of time and I saw something online. Paul Heyman was backstage in Saudi So it's only a matter of time. Next couple of weeks, Paul Heyman is going to be back, and he's going to be the wise man for the Usos and Roman Reigns. Sammy is going to be with them again, but for a very short amount of time before he goes with Solo. And it's like I said last show, it's going to be like NWO Hollywood against NWO Wolfpack.
Yep.
That's what they're setting it up for. That's what I think, anyway.
Yeah, I get that vibe. I mean, the way that Sammy led off, like before he threw the haluva kick, and Solo's in the middle of the ring. He's like, do I go with Jay? Do I hug Jay? Do I go with Solo? Solo's looking for a hug. He hugs him, and then he gives him that fucking suplex.
Yeah, but that's now they're going to work it out to, oh no, I meant to do that. I meant to sucker him in. But then after he accidentally kicks Roman, and it's like, okay, well, they don't fucking want me here anymore. Roman doesn't want me. Jimmy doesn't want me. The only one that wants me is Jay. Screw them. Solo and everyone is going to love me and give me hand jobs and blah, blah, blah. That's, and I've used this term a million times. Even Stevie Wonder can see this coming. It has, but I don't think he's going to be an actual member. Like I said, it's going to be NWO Hollywood and NWO Wolfpack, but the OTC has a wise man. So now Solo needs a wise man.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's a gremlin and a werewolf and then a guy that doesn't do fuck all. So none of them can be wise men. So you got to bring out Sammy to be a wise man. I mean, there's conspiracies all over the place, and Sammy can talk. Listen, I've been down on Sammy before because as a single, and I've said this in the archives in one show a long time ago, Sammy is good on the mic. He always has been, especially when he went into that conspiracy theory thing, and then when he was with the original Bloodline. On his own, Sammy's not very good. Sammy needs a supporting cast. Like, he's not a singles guy. He needs to be around a group to make himself get over and be entertaining, because on his own, let's face it, he's not, and I shouldn't say let's face it. In my opinion, he's not good. He needs to be around another bunch. That run he had with the Intercontinental Championship, boring. I'm sorry. It was boring as shit. And I was so pissed off that he was the one to beat Gunther. Of all fucking people, he was the one to beat Gunther. But he was over. He was over. You
said that going into that match, man. You were like, if he's going to be the one to take the belt off of Gunther, you were going to be pissed.
And I was pissed right off, but I understand because he's over. But he wasn't the guy. He wasn't the guy. If Braun Breaker had been there at the time to get that push, it should. Now, Braun Breaker beating Gunther, yeah, I would have been cool with that. I would have been cool. Sami Zayn, fuck off. Anyway, that's where I think this is going, is he's going to be the wise man to Solo eventually. And I think it's only a matter of weeks that Paul Heyman is going to be back and being the wise man for the original Bloodline. The other match that I was excited to see, was Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins. Did you catch that?
I did.
Now, what did you think?
I mean, Seth said he said it like on Monday Night Raw. He's like, Bronson he's as advertised. He's a big man. He's a monster. I'll say this: he can't really wrestle.
Oh, he's not there to wrestle.
He's a good power guy.
Eh.
Like, I mean, like for like, how can I put it?
I think I said this before the pay-per-view. I was disappointed in this match. Bronson Reed should be pushed as a monster, like a Braun Strowman and guys like that. WWE is dropping the ball on him a little bit. I thought the match was about what I expected, maybe a little bit less, but he's not, they're trying to make him a monster, but they're not at the same time. Now I understand he's not 6'8". He's a big dude and he's fairly agile. He's above average for a dude his size as far as agility goes.
I'd go as far as to say that he's like King Kong Bundy with agility.
That's a good way to put it. That's pretty accurate. And Bundy actually took him a second to get going, but once he got going, it was pretty mobile. Bronson Reed is a little better than Bundy agility wise, actually quite a bit better because he can get going faster. But that match with Seth Rollins just didn't do it for me at all. I think it was pushed too much. I thought it was forced too much. They tried to make it more than what it was. And they need to, and I've said this before, they need to put him with bigger guys, not guys like Seth Rollins that are faster than him, better technical wrestlers than him. They need to put him with big guys. Put him with Otis. Put him with who was that big black dude that MVP was with? Omos. Put him in the ring there. He needs guys his size or bigger to make the match mean something. It didn't do anything for me. And it's not Bronson Reed's fault. Like for a dude his size, he's a good athlete. He can do some pretty cool stuff in there. It's WWE's fault for not pushing him the way they should be pushing him. That's my take on it anyway. That match to me was like the Bloodline match with like him and Seth Rollins. The Bloodline against Bloodline, blah. Seth Rollins, Bronson Reed, blah.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, I'll go back on what Seth said that, Bronson is as advertised as I said. He's a big man, he's a big monster, but at the same time, like Seth needs to be in the ring with guys that are more of his forte. And I look at Seth and I see a modern day, and you may disagree with this. I see Seth Rollins as a modern day Macho Man Randy Savage.
To a point, I can see it. To a point. I mean, it's a far point, but I do see some traits.
But like he needs to be in the ring with someone who is more in his. You don't take someone who is a technical wrestler and put them in the ring who is a monster.
No, and that's why I was saying, like, this match, when they started this feud, I'm like...
I didn't understand it.
It's not going to make any sense because the matches are going to suck.
Yeah. Like, I didn't understand, like, when Bronson came out and he did the 6 splashes or whatever it was from the top rope, I'm like... What is this leading up to? What are they building? Like, there's no angle here.
No,
it kind of seemed like it was a little forced.
Yeah, it's totally forced. And that's what I was saying before. It just, like, I don't know where this storyline can possibly go. Let's face it, wrestling is about drawing money. And I think a lot of fans after that Crown Jewel match are going to say, well, why do I want to pay to see that? Because it doesn't make sense and the matches are not going to be good. And that's not Seth Rollins' fault. That's not Bronson Reed's fault.
No.
That's WWE's fault because it doesn't make any sense. At least to me. Listen, this is all my opinion. And opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. But I think anyone that looks into professional wrestling for what it is, this feud doesn't make any sense.
No.
And the matches aren't good. And as Scott Hall would say, that's all I got to say about that. Now, okay, so like I said, I'm not going to touch on the whole card because I didn't think overall as many Crown Jewel pay-per-views were. I don't think they're the greatest pay-per-views. So I just picked matches. But you have to cover. Okay, so the Women's Crown Jewel Championship match. All right, so it's Nia and Liv. I love the stats on this, okay? Now, this is going to be 2 parts. I'll be coming back to this.
Okay.
The championship belt. 3,273 embedded stones. 50 carats of diamonds. 250 carat weight. All emeralds are Australian crystals. When the fuck did WWE start putting that in their replica belts? Because that's exactly what the wrestlers got. Were replica belts. For fuck's sake, you could see the holograms on the back of the belts.
You pointed that out like the minute that they showed the back of the belt. And I was like, holy fuck.
I don't even know where to go with this. Okay, so whatever. I guess it's the image. Oh, and by the way, the belts are going to be kept in a vault. And the winners get to wear beautiful rings. The fuck?
That didn't fit.
That did. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go back to that. Okay, so the women's the women's championship match. I'm sorry. I said this last show. Nia should have won that match because Nia needs to be pushed to be the monster and the dominant force in that women's division. Liv won because she's hot as shit and sells more merchandise. That's why she won. I don't know how much input, and it's been rumored in previous Crown Jewel pay-per-views that the Saudis, whoever put it on, have a lot of influence on the outcomes of the matches. That's what I've read. Nothing confirmed. Don't want to start rumors. But in my opinion, that's why Liv won, is because she's hot and she sells a whole lot of merch. They're going to make more money off of her winning that championship than they will off of Nia. The match itself was actually not bad. I mean, Nia had some pretty strong, hard-hitting impact moves in that match.
Yep.
As hot as Liv is, she's not that great. I mean, she's a good wrestler. She can't deliver and sell all that great. She knows the moves. She knows the holds. But for her to, whether she's giving or taking, I find she's a little too soft. She needs to be just a little stiffer. Just a little. That sounds, this is coming from my own perverted mind, the way that sounds. And it's totally fucking true because I do a lot of nasty things to Liv, if she'd let me. But no, Nia actually had a very good match. I actually thought a few times she was a little too stiff and a little too hard in that match. But yeah, I think Nia should have won that. But the reason, again, I'll just keep saying it. The reason she didn't is because Liv's hot and sells more merch. And she actually has a faction where Nia only has that little blonde bimbo with her eyes that are too close together, even though she is still kind of hot. She's eventually going to, I mean, she's obviously going to turn on Nia. She's not going to, like, she tried, oh, I'm going to cash in. Go away. It's not the time. Oh, okay. No, wait, I'm going to come back. I want to cash in. No, you're not cashing in. Blah, blah, blah. She's obviously not going to cash in that money in the bank on Nia. She's going to cash in, or sorry, on Liv. She's going to cash in on Nia. And then they're going to start a feud. And if Tiffy has that belt, when she does cash in, if she has that belt longer than 2 weeks, WWE story writers need to be fired. Listen, everyone knows wrestling is scripted to the point where there's storylines. They call it in the ring. They got high points and all that stuff. But anyone that thinks that Nia Jax and Tiffy are going to have like a 6-month-long battle without Nia winning back that championship are mentally retarded. 2 weeks. That's all she should have that belt, and Nia wins it back. If I were a story writer, if you want to give any kind of credibility to professional wrestling, especially on the women's side, and you've got Nia Jax against Tiffany Stratton, and the only reason she wins is because Nia is flat on her back, she cashes in Money in the Bank and wins. In a one-on-one straight-up fight, who the fuck is going to win that fight? Realistically.
Oh,
if you want to give any kind of credibility to professional wrestling, that's what's going to happen. Because like I said, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. That's the way they have it set it up. I've said this a million times. I'll say it 1,000,001. Stevie Wonder can see this coming. And if they don't do that, then the story writers need to be fired.
No, she's going to cash in, and it's going to be on Nia. 100%. I mean, the way that they've been angling this, it has to be against Nia Jax. Like, she has to cash in on her. I mean, she's on the same program. She can't cash in. Can she cash in on the other line?
She can cash in wherever she wants. But okay. But like she can cash in for any women's championship she wants to.
She's not going to cash in on Liv because
of course not. It wouldn't make sense at this point. It wouldn't make sense at this point.
No, not at this point.
Of course she's going to cash in on Nia. And that's why I was saying when she does, I'm not going to say if, I'm going to say when she does, she's going to win the championship. When Nia is flat on her back and had a battle or someone knocked her out or whatever it is, Tiffany's going to win that championship. But if she has that belt longer than 2 weeks with Nia face to face, Nia will eat her. Nia takes shits bigger than her.
So I'll be straight up honest. I don't pay any attention to NXT.
I don't. So I haven't for years. In my opinion, NXT hasn't been good. I think the last good group were Ciampa and Johnny Wrestling when they were in. I think that's the last time I watched NXT.
Okay, so I'll have to, and this is me just being ignorant. I'll have to go back and do my research on this. Did Tiff actually win the women's NXT title?
I honestly couldn't tell you.
Was she?
I couldn't tell you, man. Like I said, the last time I watched NXT was when Gargano and Ciampa were in NXT, and that was a long time ago. Okay.
No, the reason that I asked that is because I'm trying to picture her as women's champion, and I'm like,
I mean, as over as she actually is, I'm sure she had to have been NXT champion. She had to have been. As anyone listening can tell, when we shoot from the hip, we shoot from the hip. So don't call us idiots. We don't do a whole lot of homework. You want to do a show? Yeah, okay. What time do you want to record? I don't know. I'm having supper and then I'm having a few drinks. So yeah, let's hop on at this time. Okay. We wing it. We wing it, folks. We wing it. But I couldn't tell you. I'm sure she was NXT champion. She had to have been because she's over in WWE and she's an amazing athlete. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, 100%.
And young. She's young. She's hot. Her only downfall is her eyes are a little close together. Would that stop me from throwing it in her? Fuck no. But I mean, I couldn't tell you if she was NXT champion. I assume she was. She had to have been.
If and when she cashes in on Nia, I don't think it's going to be for long that she holds the title.
No, it can't be. If they want to bring any kind of realism or credibility to Nia Jax being the dominant woman in the women's division, Tiffy takes the belt and Nia takes it right back a week or two later. And the only reason she wins is because she had money in the bank.
Okay, so this is my take. This is just me spitballing. Just hear me out. So Tiffy cashes in. She takes the title from Nia. There's a rift between Bianca and her tag partner.
Jade Cardwell.
Jade is going to step up, take the title off of Tiff, and that's going to be what's going to separate her and.
That's a pretty cool way to look at it because Jade Cardwell and Bianca Belair are both huge female like superstar wrestlers that can do it single. They don't neither one needs each other. And that's cool way to put a wedge between them. That would be cool.
Jade has not had a singles title yet.
No.
Bianca has.
Yeah.
Bianca has had that title.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've been kind of hinting at it a little bit on Monday night. You know, like they're saying, like,
they're planting seeds because I mean, it's not. Everyone knew it's not going to last forever.
No.
It can't. You can't have. And again, I go back to dominant women in the women's division. Nia, Jade, and Bianca. You take Rhea out. You take Rodriguez out. With those two, that's almost half of your women's division as a tag team.
Yep.
That could carry the division on their own. So yeah, I'm actually surprised they're still together because it's been a while since they've been together.
It has been.
But they also don't need them right now because they've got a bit going on. But now with you look at Nia, the battle between Nia and Liv, that's done. That's all done. Where does Nia go now? There is no other threat right now aside from Tiffy. So that's got to be the next setup. They could put her in the ring next week with Kylie Jenner. And Tiffy's going to cash in Money in the Bank. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who Nia fights. The next champion is going to be Tiffy. And I've said it 10 times already. If she has that belt more than a week or two, then the creative staff needs to be fired because they need to push Nia as the dominant force in WWE. This whole friendship thing with Tiffy that should have been done about a month ago. But I understand why they got to push it. You know, you need storylines and all that shit, but whatever.
Yep.
So Orton versus Owens is another one I wanted to touch on. I was looking so forward to this match. And again, I was at work when this pay-per-view went on, and I had it on, but I was getting frustrated with paperwork and didn't pay a lot of attention to it. I rewatched it this evening. Right off the bat, I thought it was going to be like, holy shit, it's going to be like a hardcore match. Like this is because both those guys can take a lot of punishment.
Yep.
But after, what I didn't like was the way they set it up. You know, like they started fighting before the bell and it was waved off. All of a sudden, no, it's no contest. It's not going to be a match and all that stuff. The feud itself is being set up, like the match itself was shit. Like even the high spots when Owens jumped off the rail, dropped that elbow. I will say this. I went back and watched that elbow drop a few times and the aftermath looking at Randy Orton. I don't know if it was close to the chin or the head or whatever, but I looked at Randy each time I went back and rewatched that elbow drop. He almost looked like it dazed him, like buzzed him up pretty good. Like he didn't know where he was at for 4 or 5 seconds, or it was a really good sell job. I don't know. But I think they're setting that up for something big. I don't know what it is. I think it could be, it's got to be bigger than a cage match or something like that. Like this is a feud that's someone is going to be hurt, like legitimately. I don't know what pay-per-view, because it's not going to be on a Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown. It's going to be a pay-per-view, but it's got to be a huge match. Like way better, like I said, way better, bigger than a steel cage. Hell in a Cell is already long gone.
Yep.
It's not going to be, they're not going to put the two of them in a War Games just one-on-one.
No.
That would be silly. Down the road, they're setting this up for something huge. And I can't wait to see it, because I thought, like, right off the bat of this match, I was like, all right, this is going to be a bloodbath. Someone's going to get hurt, like, legit. They're swinging for the fences. They're going to lay it on the line. That was thrown out. I was like, well, what the fuck? I was really, really, really disappointed. Because, like I said, I watched this at work, but wasn't paying attention because paperwork pissed me off. And I messaged you, and I said, I don't know what happened, but Randy's down and out. And the match is over. I don't think it lasted 5 or 10 minutes. I think I said 5 minutes because I was just kind of back and forth.
Right.
Did you catch it? Did you see it?
I mean, we were putting down flooring in the other room, but at the time, and like I was back and forth, and I'm like, I came out like after 4 or 5 minutes. I'm like, the fuck? Like it's over?
Yeah.
I'm like. And then to find out that it was thrown out, I'm like, what? Okay, so what direction are they going to go in with this?
That's why I was thinking it's got to be something huge, because I was really looking forward to that out of the whole pay-per-view. This is the one match I was really looking forward to. And
same.
I was like, what? Pretty lackluster. But it's a build-up. It's good. Wrestling is all storytelling. It's got to be a build-up to something fucking huge.
But what are we looking at though? Like we've got Survivor Series coming up, and then January's what, the Rumble?
Well, what are they going to do? I mean, there are singles matches in Survivor Series and stuff like that, but what are you going to do with them in Survivor Series? Like I said, you can't just put them in a cage.
No,
that's 1980s. Oh, a huge beef with guys. Put them in a cage, and once, like the cage match back in the 80s was the be-all, end-all. That was the way to end a feud, and then you go on to something else. You don't do that anymore, especially with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. So they got to be setting this up for something like massive, where it's like, oh my God, both of these guys are going to be out for like a month, or one of them is going to be out for a month or two, or vice,
Has to be.
I don't know. I was just going through my notes, and I realized I had to go back and look at it. So the main event was Cody and Gunther for the men's Crown Jewel Championship belt. And I went back and I looked, I was like, all right, because I already gave the rundown on the women's championship belt. Now, the men's belt was way bigger than the women's belt. But the stats were all the same. Now, figure that out. The rules of physics, and you take the square root of area. The men's belt was way bigger than the women's belt, but yet the same stones, the same carrots. That's the rundown. That's the tale of the tape that they gave. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, you guys. You think every wrestling fan is stupid. Anyway, the match itself. Now, I talked about before this pay-per-view that I thought that the match itself between Cody and Gunther was not going to live up to the hype. I didn't think it was going to be a good match. And you know what? I still kind of stand by that. I don't think it was a good match. I thought it was and I've used this term before, I thought it was a glorified SmackDown or Raw match. Gunther didn't look like Gunther to me. He was still there. He was still impactful. Cody did his usual Cody stuff and all that. To me, it's Cody's still floundering as world champion, man. What's his setup? Like, Crown Jewel has nothing to do with any storytelling for the WWE Championship. There's nothing coming up for Cody right now. I mean, eventually, and I said this before, it's going to be Randy Orton. Randy's going to, stab him in the back and take that championship. That's a given. In my opinion, that's a given.
God, yeah. That's going to happen.
I don't know what the foreseeable future is for Cody and that championship. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's lackluster. I get it. He's over. The fans love him. He's great with the fans. He's a good human being. I'm not taking anything away from that. That's why I'm here and he's there as world champion. But I just, the match didn't live up to the hype, which I didn't think it would, in my opinion. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I think Gunther should have won the match. I think Gunther should have won it because he is the superior wrestler. And what I will say, okay, so Cody wins. It is what it is. I thought it was super classy that Gunther went over, shook his hand, all right, you fucking beat me, screw you, blah, 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 walked away, showed a lot of class as the world's heavyweight champion. He shows signs of Ric Flair in his championship reign as world heavyweight champion. Always dresses in a suit. He's always classy. At the end, believe it or not, that's the way Flair was back in the day. If you beat him, Flair would shake your hand. Flair never used to come out and yell and scream and take his pants off and drop elbows on invisible people or knees or whatever. Flair, as the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, was a very classy wrestler, and there's a lot of traits in that with Gunther. Maybe Gunther's taking that and putting it into his persona. But I think Gunther should have won that. That's all I really got to say about that. But of course, Cody's going to win because he's over. I get it. It's a business. Goes back to Liv Morgan against Nia. Who's going to sell more merch? You know what I mean? What I laughed at was I saw the ring Now, supposedly the belts, like we talked about before, are going to be taken and put in a vault and saved for next year. Fucking replica belts. But each wrestler, Cody and Liv, got a ring. Huge ring. And I will say, the ring is a lot friggin' nicer than the belts. Did you see Cody trying to put that fucking ring on?
He struggled, man.
His finger is going to come off before that ring does. Jesus, Murphy. Cody, why would you do that? Just put it on the next finger or the finger after, make it fit, smile, take a picture, take it home, display it. It's a keepsake, all that stuff. I get it. But fuck, why would you, like, it looked like he was taking a good shit trying to put that ring on his finger, man. Like, and again, this is why he's over, right? I mean, he tries to do the right thing, and he's a good dude. He's a decent wrestler. He's decent on the mic. I get it. I don't want to shit on Cody. I try not to shit on Cody. But the WWE needs to stop thinking with their heart and start thinking as a business. I will say, to this point, I was legitimately shocked when Cody pulled the Bret Hart, rolled back on Gunther out of the sleeper and pinned him. I was sure Gunther was going to win that, especially in a foreign country. With Gunther being like a foreigner himself, like from Germany. And let's face it, the belt would have fit Gunther. It wouldn't have looked as ridiculous on Gunther as it did on Cody. What did you say it looked like? It looked like Cody was wearing body armor?
It looked like he was wearing a fucking, like a bulletproof vest. Yeah. Like it was body armor, man. Like, Jesus Christ, like the fucking thing is ridiculous. Like
and replica belts. I can't get past replica belts.
Yes.
Like, at least they can't even get, well, you can even see when Cody had it over his shoulder. Because let's face it, anyone that has bought a shop WWE belt, it's not real leather. They actually have cardboard inside of it. And he had that belt over his shoulder and it was sticking out. It didn't even fall over his shoulder. They didn't have the mindset to take the WWE holograms off the back of it. Fuck. Listen, OJ was smart enough to get rid of the gloves. Okay? WWE, take the fucking holograms off the belt. You know, like, I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it.
Looking at the match itself, I will go back and say that the Rumble match where Cody came out as like the final entrant and him and Gunther had their thing. That, to me, before he eliminated Gunther, that to me was a better match than what was held at Crown Jewel.
100%. Gunther wasn't Gunther at Crown Jewel.
No.
Now, I don't know if it was told, because like I said, the Saudis have say over there, right? I mean, listen, don't fool yourself. WWE makes millions over there, but you are told what to do if you want that money.
Yep.
That's why Taker was always there, because the Saudis loved Taker. Loved him. Gunther wasn't allowed to be Gunther. I think he was told to make Cody look strong and put Cody over. And listen, he put an ass whooping on Cody. I'm not saying that he did.
Oh, he did.
But he didn't wrestle like Gunther, and I just can't put my finger on it. I can't go into specifics. Just there was something missing. Gunther was Gunther, but he wasn't the ring general. That's the best way I can put it.
I get it.
He's looked way better in other pay-per-views, way better than he did in Saudi. Now, so it's all done. Liv and Cody get their rings. Pay-per-view's over. What did you think about the aftermath from Sammy kicking Roman? And then they show up on TV after the pay-per-view. Is Sammy going to show up and talk to Roman? He said he would. How does Roman accept? Yeah, well, okay. I'll just squash that. Sammy's going to show up and talk to Roman. Does Roman right off the bat accept him and accept his apology? Because Sammy has said, I've already been, my loyalty's been questioned, all this bullshit. Does Roman accept his apology right off that? Because he's going to show up. He never officially said, yeah, I'll show up and talk to Roman and apologize or talk it out or hug it out or whatever the fuck. Be Usi. Does Roman accept it right away?
No.
How long do you give it?
I'm going to give it 2 weeks.
Right before what? War Games. Right before War Games. And what happens in War Games? You know what's going to fucking happen. He's going to turn his back on the OTC and he's going to go with Solo. Because that's going to be, I guarantee you that's going to be in War Games. It has to be. They need a 4th member. Solo's got 4. They need 1 more. Then he's going to turn his back. But when does Paul Heyman come back? Is it after War Games? Because I guarantee you, like I said, Sammy, I can see him being the wise man.
I can see Paul coming back at War Games. I won't be surprised. Paul comes back as being the wise man for Roman and
yes,
the original,
obviously, yeah,
the original bloodline. And if what you're talking about with Sammy going to Solo's Solo's group,
yeah,
his faction, yeah, I mean, I can totally see that being Roman versus Sammy in terms of wise man versus wise man.
Yeah, they have to, because at least then you're going to have, it's going to be almost equal because they've only got 3 of them as it stands now. They've only got 3 on the OTC side. They got a lot more on the other. So you can't add another member. You need a wise man. So at least on Roman's side, you got 3 plus a wise man. You can't add Sammy because then the numbers are just getting too stacked. You know what I mean? So right. I don't know. I think the whole thing, it's going to be what Vince used to say. We don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be fun. And it's going to, like, with Sammy back in the mix. Like I said before, I used to love Sammy. I loved Sammy and the Bloodline. He was just always fun to watch, but it's not going to be fun on the Solo side. He's going to be serious. He's going to be the wise man. He's going to be giving advice. He's going to be a wise man. He's going to try to be Paul Heyman, but he's going to try to be more Paul Heyman than Paul Heyman, if that makes sense. I don't know. But I'm also interested to see now how Solo is going to react to him. Is he going to treat Sammy the way Roman treated Paul Heyman? Wise man, fix this. Why is this happening? You know, like blah, 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 blah. Is he going to be like ruling with the hammer and sickle?
Right.
Or is he going to be Sammy? I mean, you know he's going to call him wise man just because he can. Or is it going to be Sammy? Go take care of this. Or Sammy, go take care of that. It's going to be interesting to see because it's going to be the same but totally different. But is it going to be, you see the way he treats Paul Heyman and look at the way I treat you. I treat you better. Are you glad you came over? And it's, I don't know. It like Vince said, we don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be fun. And that's it, guys. Another episode in the books. Thanks for tuning in and listening to the Figure Four Podcast. My name is Doug, and we will see you on the next show.